Welcome back, tech heads and gadget gurus, to another episode of Tech Times Daily, where we dive into the world of tech and everything related. I'm your host for today, Chris Short, and joining me as always, the ultimate tech head, Christian Tejedis. Christian, what's up, man? How's it going?
Good, good. How is everyone?
Good, good. I'm good, man. I'm good. All right, so let's jump straight in, man, because we've talked about this a few times, and I think this is an update.
Hmm.
Right? We try to do this as often as possible. If there's new developments and something we previously covered. Um, so yeah, this one is TikTok creators are suing to block the seller ban law, and their defense is First Amendment, which is a big one. We all like our freedom of speech. And we also
Hmm.
discussed this that not every place has this
Yeah.
this luxury. But yeah, let's see. Let me give you the meat and potatoes here real quick. Um, so several TikTokers have filed a lawsuit against the seller ban law, arguing that TikTok stands apart from other social media platforms and that creating videos on the app is a unique form of expression. So eight TikTokers have launched a legal challenge and to stop the ban unless the Chinese parent company ByteDance divests. Um, it's a unique they argue that it's a unique personal expression and a source of their income, right? So this is not only maybe in their eyes a potential violation of the freedom of speech, but also your pursuit of happiness. They emphasize that features such as the recommendation algorithm, green screen, and duet capabilities make TikTok distinctive. Um, the lawsuit states that that making videos on TikTok is different than other platforms. So yeah, my question to you is TikTok essentially in a league of its own when it comes to social media platforms?
I don't think so. It's no different than Meta. If Meta is actually paying people on their platforms, like content creators, we would still receive the same thing. Like we've already discussed this before, and we actually stated when money is involved, people will actually be voicing out their opinions and will be pushing back. Like this is just the inevitable result of this. Like this is something so obvious. Like I was actually much more surprised that it took longer than this. Maybe
Right. Well,
people are have to look in the dictionary what divesting means. So that's why it took so long.
well, I think these are usually long processes. Like you have to find representation, you have to build your case, and then you have eight or more people involved. Um, but I
Yeah,
mean,
their argument regarding freedom of speech, yes, it is warranted, but it could be the same thing as pornography being uh having correlation to freedom of expression. Like
well, that's true,
so
you know,
it's
and
not about the freedom of speech thing, it's about the paper. Like it's about the money that they're gonna be losing.
well, that's also why I brought up, you know, it's in the Constitution. I think it's the Constitution. Maybe it's the preamble to the
Yeah,
Constitution.
and
You know,
the videos that actually do well on TikTok are not speech related. They're mostly dancing. So,
yeah,
and these are the top paid content creators. So, I can understand them using the defense of freedom of speech, but let's not bullshit ourselves regarding this.
yeah, but I mean, if but that's kind of the thing, though, right? Like, as Americans, freedom of speech must not be infringed upon, right? It's First Amendment. Like, you can't
Yeah.
regulate my speech for the most part. So this, you know, even if even though I'm not a TikToker,
Yeah.
um, it creates a difficult junction, right? Like, is your freedom of speech more of a priority than national security? Like, it kind of builds
Yeah,
that
it's if you think about
argument.
it, I think it's just the degree of the severity of the situation, whether it affects them now, than later. Like if we go back to the pandemic, everyone was asked to stay home, but no one actually filed for a case of illegal detention to the government.
Should
Like,
have.
so what's the case regarding free speech in this? Like, we already said, criticisms of free speech is a non-winning argument. You could state the
Right.
same for hate speech because you have to define hate speech. What's
Right.
your definition of freedom of speech? You can basically say anything you want, promote any content you want. What if the content is damning? What if the content is actually, is it still allowed? What if the content actually hurts the security of your country?
Hmm.
Like, it's never about this thing, it's always about paper. That's it. It's always about the bottom line for these people. Like, if these are just dancers without a monetized platform, you would think they'd be doing this class action lawsuit to protect TikTok.
Right. And do you think there's a hint of like, but I like TikTok.
Yeah,
Like, don't
who
take it
would
away.
like it?
I mean, no, they're saying like, even if it does pose a threat to Americans and the world,
You could
but
say
they
the same
like
thing.
it.
You could say the same thing to the McCrib. A handful of people actually like it, but they don't actually care when it's gone.
So what now?
The McCrib.
Oh, the McGriff. Okay. Well, it comes back though.
Yeah, it does come back.
It comes
Which
back every year.
if it doesn't, there are alternatives. Like, it's not like
Yeah.
the government is taking away your entire social media. It's just the monetized one for you.
Yeah. But I mean that's maybe a bigger issue
And
than
again,
freedom of
yeah, and
speech.
again, I say this, I say that to say this. It's not that it's not that I'm for the banning of things and I'm not
Hmm.
against free speech, but let's just be transparent with our intent here. Free speech was never the primary. It's just a good talking point when it comes to a lawsuit and what
Oh,
you
that's
want
true.
to bring up to the government, because it's a good thing to actually bring up to the government because it's part of the constitution.
Yeah. They also made a point that even if TikTok isn't banned, that there's a change of ownership, maybe that it would also impact the platform, similar to how X was impacted by the Elon Musk takeover.
Yeah, because I figured the government would want control on who is going to be owning that platform, right?
I think
Because
that's what it is.
they would be buying it.
I think that's what I mean. Yeah,
But
I
that
honestly think that's the root of it.
this also ties into the biases that we've actually been discussing over the past weeks. Change of administration changes everything that they own.
Yeah.
So if they're going to be divesting, they should have made it. They should just sell it to an independent party. Do you think Meta would buy TikTok? I guess they would,
Probably, for sure.
right?
I mean,
But then again, even Meta has ties to the Chinese. I think which tech company doesn't have any ties to the Chinese at this point?
right. That's
Like,
a very good point.
the government keeps
I mean,
bringing out
what's
these subsidies for these techs. Yet every tech actually available is actually made in China. Like microchips, subsidizing them
hmm,
for phones. The chips are being built in China, even if it's from Korea, like Samsung. They still take their chips
Apple?
from China. AMD, Intel,
Yeah,
or although I think Intel is mostly based in the US, but they have some factories where they get parts there for manufacturing. Like,
right. I
banning
mean, but
TikTok
what?
for now is just I don't think it would do that much.
Okay, yeah, but I mean, these. I mean, it's such a multi-layered thing, right? It's very, very
Yeah, it
multi-layered.
is.
Like, is it an infringement of free speech? Um, it would be if it were the only platform,
Yeah,
you know. That's not the
like
only
it's
place that you can express yourself.
that's what I'm saying. It's not like social media is gonna be dead with TikTok being gone from the US. TikTok is still available in other countries, but so is
Yeah,
Twitter.
yeah. VPN, you VPN that shit.
Yeah, and so is Facebook. There are some countries that don't. The only one that doesn't have these kinds of things is China, and they have their own social networks. Like
Right.
they're not bothered by not having any social networks from other companies. I think they much prefer that.
The government much prefers it. I'm sure the
Yeah,
people would like to have a little more
it,
variety.
they're moving just fine without the other ones. Like
Yeah, but I mean, but still like the option, right? Just the fact that the government says you can't even choose. Like we tell you what you get. That's an issue right there.
yeah,
And that's
and it's an
not,
issue in China. But then
yeah,
again, the US has options, like you said.
yeah, but that's not a far stretch from what the government is doing right now. They're
I think they
saying
pretty
this
much
isn't allowed.
labeled they pretty much just labeled this as being part of just one country that they deemed as a threat to them.
You know, and it's no secret. China's a threat, especially to the West. They've been number two for how many years now? They want to be number one.
Well, you can say that to every country, by the way. Like
Yeah, but
I
most
don't want to
countries,
I don't want to open old wounds, but the world never actually thought of anything about Japan until Pearl Harbor.
mm, yeah, but I mean, no other country has even the a remote capacity to be the world power if it's not the US or China. Like, what other country is there?
Again, the Japanese people back then were actually a military threat.
Yeah, but you see what happened to them.
Yep,
They
and
got
they
that
paid for it.
that shit got shut down.
Yeah, and the US actually bought their products after, so it's win-win.
Yeah, well, we hang out there all the time, and
And
I got
it's
Japanese
peaceful
friends,
now.
and yeah, um,
But I guess
if
all of this is
if don't
just
start
about
if
money.
don't start nothing won't be nothing was a
Yeah.
yeah.
Like what was it in the movie? Like they woken up a sleeping tiger.
Well, that's an interesting topic because I feel like the U.S. was a relatively new nation. We still are in comparison. Um, I feel like, yeah, they kind of, I don't know, like they poked a bear and they just weren't expecting it to be such an aggressive bear. But
Yeah.
that's kind of,
I guess it was an unfamiliarity of culture.
yeah, it's like, oh shit, okay, well, didn't see that coming. I'm sure it was a couple responses after where it's like, oh, ooh, probably shouldn't have did that. But but yeah, as far as like the government, because for me, I'm small government, right? Like I'm
Yeah.
small government. I didn't like the lockdowns. I thought it was government overreach. Turns out it was for the most part. Mandatory vaccines, government overreach. Um, so when the government does come in and say it wouldn't be such an issue if they were offering a solution. Their only solution is to ban this thing, and that's not a solution.
It's not even about the banning. I think they're feeling that they're starting to get redundant because the only solution that the US have been doing to other countries for the past decade now is actually just sanctions.
Mm,
And the problem with sanctions is they're actually promoting, like I said, these subsidies. But the issue with that is like I said, the manufacturing, the process of those and the opportunities of other companies or other people to actually access these subsidies will be hurt by these sanctions. It's much better to ban this or ask them to just divest, to just avoid sanctioning an entire country.
right. Well, speaking of sanctions, and this is a little off topic, but I mean we can kind of jump topics here, I guess. Um, because we've also discussed this in recent weeks, about Joe Biden seemingly, and this is a shift in topic, right? We're going to shift for real quick. It's related for one reason, and I'll tell you why in just a second. But we have talked about Joe Biden's seemingly erratic decision making leading up to the election.
Yeah.
And you pointed out the correlation here is you pointed out how the U.S. kind of targets China, right? For some, for the most part, with tariffs and sanctions and all these things. Biden just the other day um, quadrupled the tariffs on China, on Chinese EVs. It's went from 25% to 100%.
Yeah, but the thing is, China would never actually avoid trading with the US. I think some of them would still pay these tariffs. So that I think
Yeah,
is a
the
sanction
U.S.
that,
market's so large.
yeah, I think that's the sanction that they could actually live with. That's why I feel this is more of a matter that don't want to be redundant because it feels like the Biden administration is just picking a fight at this point.
It does. It says this is a move that is likely to inflame trade tensions between the world's two biggest economies. The White House said it was imposing more stringent curbs on Chinese goods worth 18 billion.
Yeah,
I mean,
but
that's a hell of an increase.
I guess they've done in the U.S. There are smart people who actually done the economics there, but actually figured this wouldn't actually hurt the economy much for them. Like it's
Now,
like JFK not blinking.
here's an interesting yeah, I just heard that, but yeah.
Yeah,
Here, Jesus. Here's an interesting addition to this story. In March, this is now May. In March, Trump said that if elected president, reelected, he would put 100% tariff on every single car that comes across the line from Chinese-owned manufacturing plants. Quote, he said they are not going to sell those cars.
Does Biden think the cars coming from China are Decepticons? What the hell?
No, that was Trump.
That was Trump?
That was Trump in March.
100% tariff? Now
Yeah.
this is 400% for Biden.
No, because Trump threw it out there, right? He's like, I'm taxed 100% tariff. And then March, April, 2 months later, Biden does exactly what Trump said he was going to do. Does that mean it's a good idea? Like
The world,
if both these two opposing figures have the same idea, that tells me it must be a good idea, right? Or at least the right thing to do.
the world is burning right now, and these two fools are actually hunting for Decepticons. What the hell? Like,
Well, Decepticon is TikTok. You think you're just dancing when actually it's stealing everything. It knows your likes, your dislikes, your habits.
yeah. Well, we're gonna know after the results of the election. Either way, the result of this election is gonna be messed up, right? Like
Yeah,
it's pretty much a
it's not.
similar person actually running for office. Like I feel like the Democrat or at least the Biden administration has an identity crisis right now.
They do. They do. They
Sometimes I
do.
feel like
Yes,
they just want to be contrarian because a few years ago
they
they wouldn't
do.
be saying this.
You're absolutely right. Well, a few years ago, if Trump had said, you know, climate change is real, we need to limit our carbon footprint, then for the last 4 years, the U.S. would have been burning coal like it was going out of business or like it was going out of style. That's the way it's been.
In
and vice
another
versa.
case, in another case, maybe it's just Biden trying to move the goalpost to the center again by meeting them in the middle.
I think.
But he has to be he has to be sane to do that.
I think they know that Trump's policies work on a financial level for the country. I think they know this. Whether or not he's, building bridges with domestic or with international policy, or if the world leaders hate him, like, yeah, probably. But I think financially speaking, he was making the right moves. And I think Biden has stolen the playbook on this one.
Yeah, whether it be social media or EVs, like it's a weird space that Democrats are running in.
It
Like
is very much so.
it's a crazy thing that they were on the opposite end, but they're not about 6 years ago.
Mm.
Like
They like to do that. They move with the tides. Well, they all do. Republicans, liberals, progressives.
everyone does.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if Trump's previous statements he doubled back on them on this in this campaign. I haven't heard any of his campaign policies over the course of the campaign period.
Yeah, I don't know. I know he just had 100,000 people in New Jersey show up to his rally. Crazy. I don't think even 100,000 people live in New Jersey.
They
It's
all
like a
bought
lot of
tickets.
people. There's a lot of people, man.
It goes to show he still has supporters.
Oh
Like,
God, he's
but the problem is that 100,000 of people, the reflection of what America is at this point,
yeah,
right?
but,
So
yeah. And
hopefully,
is
go ahead.
America is the home of free speech. So I'm kind of my ideas about banning TikTok are changing because I don't think banning a government ban is a solution. I think it's an overreaction at least, or a bullying tactic.
Yeah, we did mention that previously, right?
Yeah, it's not a solution. So
Uh, Well, I
yeah,
guess in this lawsuit, like I would just like to clarify, I am all for free speech. I just want these TikTokers actually to just be transparent.
they
It's
can't. They're
about the
not. That's
paper for you guys.
yeah.
Like, let's be honest.
In the court of law, they can't. Like you
Yeah.
have to stick to your guns. Like, no, this is freedom of speech. I cherish my freedom of speech. I'm pretty sure these same people were the same people that were on Twitter 2 years
This
ago,
this is free
calling for
speech.
cancellation.
I have not seen one documentary in your TikTok feed.
Do you know what I mean? These are the same people canceling people a couple years ago, and now all of a sudden they're upset about free speech, freedom of expression.
And we get these sentiments that social media is the problem in today's society, yet these people are actually fighting to keep it.
Yeah,
A lot of disconnect in this age.
a lot. It's amazing. We're more connected than ever, but there's this
A lot
huge
of contra
disconnection that's happening.
a lot of contradictions happening in people's principles at the moment.
Yeah. Well, it's all fun and games, right? Like I was just mentioning about cancel culture, right? It's all fun and games until you're the one getting canceled.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I don't like that he said the FAG word in 2010. Let's remove all of his accolades and try to destroy his life and his career. And then as soon as they say, "Oh yeah, we're going to ban," that platform that China made that you like to get on there and talk about your pronouns and how gay your 3-year-old is, we're going to stop that. It's like, oh no, that's you're infringing on my rights. Like, come on, man, it's the same.
Yeah.
What's good for the goose is good for the gander,
For the
or whatever
gander.
it is. Yeah. But all right, man, thanks for weighing in. And that wraps up today's episode of Tech Times Daily. Tune in again tomorrow for more cutting edge updates and insightful discussions on the latest in technology. Until then, stay curious, stay connected. For Christian Tejedis, I'm Chris Short. See you next time.